Hello, welcome, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us to learn a little bit more about Enea Garden Design. Enea Garden Design, we're very proud to have their director and assistant director, Nim and Brian. Thank you so much for coming with us this afternoon, for spending the Friday together as we learn a little bit more about Enea Garden Design. So you're one of the world's leading landscape architecture firms. You have over 150 person staff with a variety of disciplines like backgrounds and landscape architecture, interior design, technical design, engineering, construction, botany. You have you have people from 10 different countries speaking more than 15 languages, basically really what we are all about, the international city that is very cosmopolitan, that it really embraces a lot of different cultures and information from all over the world. You have a global perspective in landscape architecture firm, and we're really, as I said, we're very happy. Thank you so much to have you. Nim, you are the Nim Chea is the director at Enea Design Miami, and your areas of interest include the sustainable design as well as the urban design and planning. Tell us a little bit more on what you do.
Well, thank you, Carmen, for the gracious introduction. I'm really proud to be a part of this and a part of the projects that we're going to talk about. As you mentioned, Enea is a world-class landscape architecture firm, and we're designers that we have 3 offices in, we started in Zurich, a little bit outside of it. A lot of people are not so familiar, but they are familiar with our tree museum, which is the first in the world, and it's in Rapperswil, Jona. So our headquarters are there. We also started the company here in Miami in 2005. And we also have a company in New York, which we started in 2016. So we're quite proud of the footprint that we've been able to make on the planet, and what we're really all about, which is a design firm that provides creative solutions for landscape architecture, and our philosophy is really to provide really sustainable solutions that are creative, that really gives people a quality of life. As you know, we're all about the outside-in approach, and with my background being in landscape architecture and horticulture, I graduated many moons ago, but I'm really proud to be able to be the director here and really practice everything that I've learned in the 20-something years with Enea. And I think that together we have made a really proud footprint. We're sustainable. We are careful of our carbon footprint on the world, and I think that a lot of the projects that we're about to show you and discuss embodies our philosophy.
Thank you so much, Nim. Brian, you're the associate director, and could you please describe a little bit what we're seeing here?
Oh, can't hear you. I think you're mute. Can we hear you, Brian? No, I'll describe. It's okay. I think he has some technical difficulty. So right here is For Forest. It's a temporary art installation that started. It's in Klagenfurt, Austria, and it started with an artist's idea, and it's all about sustainability, because the idea here is this. It's very moving, because the artist thought that we as people are destroying ourselves and nature, and we're slashing and burning forests. We're not sustainable. The carbon footprint is just growing and growing, and soon nature will disappear. And this is quite moving, and it's something that we can't see in real time, but over time, as you assess how the world has changed, it's quite evident that this is true. And this art installation took, it started in September of 2018, and it was installed, and it stayed up for several months in 2019 of last year. So what it means is later on in the future, we have to go to a stadium just to look at nature. So it's all about the idea of being sustainable and how we treat our land and how we treat the things that we take for granted, such as a forest. So what we did here was we brought this artistic rendition into life. We worked with the artist, and it was really incredible because what Enzo and the team in Switzerland did, much credit to them, they selected every single species to create this layered effect of what a real forest is all about. So that when it's installed, it really represents the natural setting. And then people, hundreds of thousands of people came here to visit, which was an incredible turning point for us because we were able to make a statement across the world, not just in Austria, not just in Europe, but it's reached many continents, and it's gotten worldwide recognition. So we're quite proud of that.
Well, incredible to see, and it is impressive how art and landscaping work together so beautifully, but that's something that you, I believe, Enea Garden Design does basically almost every day. Tell us a little bit about your notable projects of this past year, for example.
Well, actually, 2019 was an incredible year for us because we started Enea Miami in 2005, actually from the Garden Lounge, which it used to be in the Miami Design District. And that is how we came here to Miami. We organically grew from Switzerland here. And when we came here, the market had changed quite a bit, you know, the 2008 market. But soon after, we got several notable projects that were quite large, and it takes, as you know, many years to complete one project. So last year was a great year for us to see some of our really notable projects, such as Palazzo della Luna, Palazzo del Sol in Fisher Island. We also completed Calabash here, which you see, which was in Antigua, which was a very sustainable design project. We imported a lot of plant material, but we also relocated over 200 trees on the site because we were not allowed to bring any palm trees importing in. So we made a great deal of effort to rebalance and use what we have to recreate this luxurious oasis for the client. But we also worked, we finished recently Casa Armani in Sunny Isles, and Oceana right here, as you see, was completed a couple years ago. So we're quite proud of those projects.
They are quite you know, spectacular projects indeed, and I think those outdoor areas really complement the beauty of the architecture and the beauty of the surroundings. So when you go about designing the landscaping for a building, what are the most requested design trends that you see?
Well, the most requested is comfortable spaces. I mean, every client gives you a list of program of what they want. I want a grill. I want beautiful trees. But at the end of the day, what it encompasses is a comfortable space. What they're looking for is a placemaking for us to do the placemaking for them. They don't realize that they're in the garden until it's almost complete. Even when we do the drawings, clients have a tendency to love everything, but it's not until the buildings, as I think Mark had talked about in the previous one, it's so exciting to go on site and you start to see the volumes. And then for us, it's when the first tree arrives. So it's the comfortable spaces that clients really look for. It's what we strive to create for them as well. I think it is a growing trend. And if you mean for this year and the future, you know, sustainability is something that people are more aware of, but how we create socially conscious designs is our job now. How we handle water on site, how we plant native plantings that are appropriate in scale and in type to the location. For instance, the projects that we're working with OKO for Missoni and also Una, it has to be appropriate to the site, which is on the water. And then the last, I guess, the trend that I would say is with everything happening today with COVID, we're faced with something new that we're learning as we go. But the most important takeaway is that people need space. They don't want to be claustrophobic or crowded in a small space any longer. What they want to feel is comfortability with the nature, with air. And this is something we all have to keep in mind going forward when we design, because it's no longer the same criteria as what we used to have. And the good part is that Enea, it's part of our philosophy anyway, is to create these micro in these spaces. So I think we're ahead of the curve.
I think you certainly are. You have been for a long time. Now, talking a little bit more in depth about Una and Missoni, that you have collaborated with OKO. How did that first collaboration started? How did you came to work for Una and for Missoni?
Well, in 2015, we were approached. There was an incredible project, and it was with Asymptote, Hani and Jennifer, and so we worked with OKO Group and Asymptote on this incredible project. Missoni came first. So that's how we came about to foster this relationship, and that's where we met Mr. Deronen. And our philosophies really aligned. I think that what transpired from the collaboration was incredible, and we're really proud of how we worked together. When we saw each other at the opening, it was like a really nice reunion. As you know, things take a really long time to transform, and where we're at right now, I think we're very proud to be a part of that team.
That is great indeed. What would you say are some of the unique aspects that both Una and Missoni have? And they're very different as well. So you have to approach each one differently. But what are the unique aspects that you will see that kind of help you on that direction, where to go on the landscaping design?
Well, as you can see from some of these images that are being shown now, both of the projects are located on Biscayne Bay, and they're both have this incredible opportunity because they are elevated up above the grade to really enhance and accentuate those views out to the water itself. Both have interesting common element areas like this that we see here. Missoni in particular has this expansive outdoor terrace, which is integrated seamlessly with this great lawn, giving the residents this, great event space, and also what feels like, it's their own private yard. Both projects also have what is an opportunity to work with the city of Miami and the county also to have this integrated bay walk. As part of our design philosophy, we want to bring people to nature. And both of these projects in their respective neighborhoods draw people from the city to the water itself. They're both tailored, though, to the individual building's spirit and the design that is influenced by the architecture. Missoni's brand especially is contemplated in the shapes and patterns of the space that you see throughout the project. And on the amenity deck itself, you can see here, what makes this incredibly unique space is this fitness aspect, where the inside recreation rooms lead you out to the west deck, where we have a full Olympic-sized lap pool in between a alley of pitch apple trees. Una, on the other, is a different spirit than Missoni. In the work with ASGG, they contemplated the contemporary yet nautical feel of that project, really emphasizing the boating lifestyle. On the street that it's on, it abuts a boulevard-like street and has a section of public park to the south. And so it really feels like it's an extension of the landscape that is created for the Una residences. The landscape amenity level also lies on the west side of the tower. And looking at the design inspiration with ASGG, they had taken a portion of the building which was in the back and allocated it up to the higher level to give you these views out to the water. And we took that same design philosophy and took the park-like landscape and the water and brought it then around to the back of the building and created this experience where the sinuous lines of the architecture integrate seamlessly into the landscape. And I think in both projects, the design is to be an extension of the building, creates outdoor rooms, and make spaces that are comfortable with people, like Nim said, to be able to visit and enjoy nature with fresh air and space.
That is beautiful, and those renderings look amazing. It looks like I just want to go and take a walk on that boardwalk. Tell me something on the design process and working with the architects and working with the structure. What comes first? I mean, is there like a strong influence on, let's say, for example, in Una, the nautical theme, the nautical theme? Is there not so much? Do you start at the beginning? Do you come when the design is already done for the architect?
For these two projects, we did come on after a lot of the conceptual ideas had been started. And it's good for us because we get to embrace with the landscape, the architecture and the interior design. It needs to flow. So we feel that the collaboration enhances the sinuosity, going from one room to another. It should feel like it's one fabric that weaves throughout the project. But for these two projects, we did come on after the architecture had been started. And Una is incredible. I think it's so unique, and Missoni has its own brand. I mean, Missoni is so iconic, and Una, this boating lifestyle. Each project has its own spirit that I think is so true and separate from what we've seen elsewhere. So I think it's so easy to make it a beautiful project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you take like reference points from the architects or from the developer? Do they give you a direction? How is that?
Yeah, you can answer, Brian.
we always work with the architects to understand what their concept is of the building. And when we as landscape architects come to the site, our philosophy is always to begin with the genus loci, to understand the spirit of the place, the context, as well as the client's goals for the site. We then incorporate the architecture into the fabric of the landscape. And we look at the interior designer's character also, which is integral to both of these projects. Missoni Baya's landscape design embraces the Missoni brand and the architect's vision of this, elegant glass building set in the garden. And Una takes the language from the architect. We worked hand in hand with both Asymptote and ASGG. But Una takes that sinuous language and integrates it seamlessly into the landscape.
So one of the examples of how we integrate would be, the Missoni patterns. We look to have that fabric be part of the day beds. We're looking into the pools so that we could reflect some of the coloration by code, where we have some limitations, but to the most that we can, we always try to express and express the interior components as well as the architectural forms into the landscape design because of that connectivity and bringing the outside in.
Right. So what Nim was saying, the Missoni, that iconic chevron, those angles are brought into the landscape design, both in the plant materials arrangement and also in the forms that we use.
That must be fun. That must be fun to try to really bring that spirit of the building to a garden and to a beautiful outdoor area and using basically organic elements to create that. Talking about what's obviously Florida has a very special climate, and the fact that you're by the water, I'm sure you have to take in consideration, the weather, the climate, the wind currents, and all kinds of decisions to make so that the garden is sustainable, it's efficient, it works for everybody, it's beautiful. So do you have a specific plant, specific trees that you prefer, that you work with in Florida?
Well, always our design process starts with an extensive analysis of the site because we want to be and embody sustainability, sustainable and embody sustainability in our designs. We need to see what is appropriate for the space. As we said, both of these sites are on the water. It's a tough place for a plant to live, which often means that the best plants that are suited for these types of sites are the ones that are native to this area. They're the ones that are going to take the wind. They're the ones that are going to take the salt, which means that, silver buttonwood is pretty iconic for South Florida. It's going to be right on the water. Green buttonwood as well, pitch apples, and we use sea grape with its incredibly beautiful big round leaves that really stand out on the site, and they have such character in the trees also.
We also pay attention to which side of the building the landscape is situated on. So obviously we have 4 sides here, and the sun moves from east to west coming through the south. So depending on the time of the year, we propose appropriate plants in scale and in type to the sun pattern as well. A lot of plant material that won't survive in the hot sun on the west side obviously we have to select it very carefully. So we use a lot of examias, kuntis. I'm throwing some Latin names out, but these are the plant names. On the terraces, this is really one of the most difficult to design because on terraces you have a slab and you have no depth ever to plant the plants in the ground. So everything has to be raised up into a planter. And for this reason, the size of the planter has to be appropriate. We use a lot of the pitch apples because it's very tolerant of the conditions, but they also grow into 30-foot trees if you let them. So the maintenance aspect of it is quite important too. So what we do with clients that approach us to help them with a terrace, it really depends on the garden. But if a client approaches us to help them with a terrace, we do, like Brian says, assess the site. How much roof do we have? How much space? How much width do we have? And then by that point, we have a good understanding of what would survive and how it should be maintained.
And
Very
to
well.
that aspect, we work with the structural engineers and the architects, really let them know what the trees need to survive and also what the building can support.
Yeah, good point.
So taking all those things in consideration, what would you see, what are the 3 trends that you think that are going to be the most successful for 2020?
I think that was what I was touching on earlier, but I think that the outdoor living, like we were talking about, it's going to become more important. And I think that people are going to want it even more. It was really interesting during the COVID times. I had a phone call with Enea, who is our principal, and we were really concerned about just the well-being of everyone and how things are moving in both offices. And he said something really inspiring and interesting, which was he has built many gardens for clients, and everyone travels so much and everyone works so much, and it was the first time that they had had time excuse me, to be home. And it was the first time they realized that they got to enjoy the gardens that Enzo had built for them, because they were so busy traveling that, it was something that they experienced in passing. But when they were home with the kids, being able to sit outside in the spaces, they wanted more. And I think this is so inspiring to hear that people really appreciate what they have and the nature and the space. We just love plants. I mean, we're fanatics. So I think this is going to be one of the biggest trends for 2020. And this, is in tandem with this outdoor space and outdoor living rooms to connect with nature. People want to be in nature right now. I think they're craving it. I do myself, so I can imagine that this is something that people will want more of 2020. And what I had mentioned earlier, which was the sustainability and the socially conscious design. So.
Absolutely. And of course, and staying more at home and trying to enjoy more your space, and trying to make well-being part of your everyday life.
Yes.
So we see that across all our projects and we see the desire of our clients to be able to really enjoy as much as they can in a very organic and a very nature way. What do you think this desire for wellness living how is it gonna impact your industry?
I think it's going to be. Oh, sorry. Go on, Brian. I was going to say that I would think it's going to be a part of. It's not going to be just a part of the program, but it's going to be demanding. Everyone will demand this as part of their everyday lifestyle. I think that a lot of our projects already have this wellness component with spas and fitness, but it's not just only that aspect, it's the mental and health aspect of gardens are therapeutic, and that alone contributes to the well-being of a person, along with exercising. We've done gardens where there's a loop where you can walk around, and this is something that is a luxury to have. What were you going to say, Brian?
I was going to say, that's part of Enea's design philosophy is to make landscapes that improve people's quality of life. And each of these places gives us a unique opportunity to find that here in South Florida.
Yes.
And how were you able to incorporate that wellness feeling into both Una and Missoni?
As I mentioned with Missoni, we have an Olympic-sized flat pool. And pools in general add another dimension to the site. They allow activity outdoors. They encourage people to use their outdoor spaces, even in the hot weather here. Both of these spaces incorporate comfortable living environments, which are so important to be inviting and also to have a sense of tranquility. As Nim said, these are therapeutic gardens also, and also contributing to the health of our environments. We use native plants, which encourage birds and butterflies to come through the spaces. It really brings people and nature together.
And then one other aspect that it's both projects is that the trees give off oxygen, and this is what we need. So the more that we have of landscape and being in nature, it helps us become healthy as well. This is something that both Una and Missoni have a lot of landscape that creates this comfortable environment. Having a microclimate that's with shade, because it's so hot here in Florida. Nobody really wants to sit outside for too long, right? And unless you have the shade of a canopy tree, an umbrella, a beautiful pergola, which Missoni and Una both have. They have their own styles of elements, furniture elements that really complement the building. But all of these components that we talked about is what wellness is about at the end of the day.
And each of these projects has enough variety that it accommodates different people's lifestyles and their needs. So each space is going to have something that calls to someone else.
I mean, the other thing that like Una is incredibly close to the Rickenbacker. So people bike there, walk there. I mean, I walk there and bike there as well. And this is part of wellness. It's not only what's on the property, but it's the connectivity to nature. You're right on the water, having these breathtaking views. You soak that in and you feel good. It's part of it.
It's a good point. Also, these projects are close to and integrated with Miami's bike path system.
Mm-hmm.
And what Missoni is doing and what Una is doing also, but Missoni is especially critical where it is in the Edgewater neighborhood, is creating one of the longest stretches of continuous bay walk that's part of the Biscayne Bay Master Plan. These are all active outdoor spaces.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and Enea, you know, being already in the city for so long, I'm sure that you are proud to see all this transformation that the city is doing, opening new ways, opening you know, access to the water. So it's an amazing contribution that you are also part of it, and it's, I'm sure, very exciting for you to see. Like you said, both Una and Missoni. Missoni will be completed next year in 2021. Una is going to be a little bit later, but like, I'm glad that you mentioned, Nim, that in case one of our clients wanted to decide to perhaps have their terrace landscape to just be a continuation of the arrival experience through the amenities, through the beautiful landscape, private areas, and as well of the landscaping of the surrounding areas that you many times take care as the master planners, that will be also a possibility to be able to just have like the complete, let's say, complete Enea experience.
Absolutely, we'd be honored to be a part of any of the individual projects within this master plan, because I think any client that comes to us that would be interested in this already gets 50% of the design, because it's going to be within the footprint of the gardens already. So we would try to connect and extend. We think that also any person that would seek to live in either projects already has embraced what the projects are about. So if we extend it, it's just making they're bringing the what Enzo calls outside in. So we're bringing the master plan and the gardens into the closer to the units.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we have any questions from our audience. That will be time to see if we have anybody that has a specific question. I think that we basically touch a large array of elements in the sense that you sometimes start from the master planning because you have a project that are several buildings. So you not only do the landscaping for the amenities, but you also do the surrounding areas. You also have the chance to create these incredible green spaces, bringing nature into the buildings, but also you could potentially use your expertise in the private residences. So it really is an incredible line of work and bringing beauty, obviously, and nature into our clients' homes. So I see that there is a question here. Could we be more specific on top 3 plants or trees that are the trees that I should plant by my by the water?
Sure.
By the water, some of the best ones, as I mentioned before, are going to be buttonwoods, sea grape, pitch apple. Those are the ones going to really take the wind and salt.
Those are trees if they are if the person asking the question is interested in palms, because palms are part of the South Florida landscape. Coconuts do very well. Of course, you want to specify a variety that is not susceptible to lethal yellowing, which is a very prevalent disease that's with the coconuts. So we've used green Malayans, which are dwarf, and then we have used the Maypan as well. Florida thatch palms. So these are native palms that that really are going to withstand a lot of the salt and the wind. We've used Perotis palms as well. They have many canes, so each palm's silhouette is used in a different fashion on a project. So I hope this helps.
And just one more question. Do you use flowers as well?
Yes. We use different types of flowers. So our landscape, we're about texture and form. Flowers that we use are often used as accents to tie into, let's say, what we're seeing right now, which is the Missoni textures and the textiles, the patterns. We would pull some flowers that match to it and bring it into the landscape so that we connect. We use many flowers. A lot of them we try to source that are native, so that they're not as high maintenance as, let's say, foundation plantings where you would have seasonal plants. We find that this is it's very high maintenance. They don't grow throughout the year. They have to get switched out very often, and they only have a certain bloom time, which actually brings a good point. Is we also study the bloom season of a plant, so that we understand that South Florida is sometimes it can be a transitional city where folks come here between November and May, right? That's our high season. And so we try to plant flowers that are blooming at that time, because it's when it's most appreciated by the user. So yes, we do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love that you really care about your client. You really think about every possibility and how to make the environment more sustainable as well. So I really thank you. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Nim. We really appreciate having you. I don't know if you have anything else that you would like to share with us.
Well, I think as a closing statement, we just want to thank everyone for supporting us on allowing us to be as creative as we can. It's not always so easy when you're having to collaborate with so many different wish lists, right? And everyone has been patient and really believe in us to realize a project like this. It's been a pleasure working with the OKO group. It's been a pleasure working with the design team, and I think that we're just so excited to see all of this. And we thank you as well, Carmen, for moderating and allowing us to be a part of this. It's really inspiring. Yeah.
And I'm just going to add that it's been an honor to be a part of two amazing projects that have come out of this partnership with OKO Group.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Nim. Have a good afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you soon and to seeing those beautiful plants and gardens at both at Missoni and Una.
Likewise, thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.